What's up, friends? Welcome into Rock Chalk Sports here on this Monday afternoon. Along with Dan Courtwright, I'm Sean Kellerman. Got a full show today,
Mm,
and it's not going to be a joyous one by any stretch, but we're going to tell you all about
it's
the
gonna be
weekend that
full.
was in the world of sports here in and around Lawrence as KU football, KU basketball both lose, as did KU soccer in the Big
Mm.
12 tournament. So no fun over the weekend, except KU volleyball. They did
Yeah,
sweep Cincinnati,
it's
so
true.
there's a little bit of good vibes there. But yeah, kind of a tough one for us here on the call. We're going to talk KU football here in the opening segment, losing a heartbreaker to Arizona in the desert. To break that down, we're going to hear from head coach Lance Leipold next segment. Following that, we're going to get the thoughts of Kevin Flaherty from the Kansas City Sports Network. Kevin will talk KU football, KU basketball after we do our KU UNC recap from the Dean Dome on Friday. Case of the Monday segments coming up at about 5:30, so we'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of sports.
Are you having a case of the Mondays, Sean?
Of course I am.
Okay.
Are you
How
not?
was your flight back?
It was
You
great.
were out at Chapel Hill.
I was.
Right? I mean,
I
you
was.
obviously saw
Everything
KU
was great.
lose.
Yeah, no, the
How was it?
travel was great. Honestly, the arena I think is a little bit underrated.
Mm,
It was better than
okay.
people.
It's big, isn't it?
It's big.
Like 20,000.
Holds upwards of 20,000, and it's not one that people point to as they say, oh, it's a bucket list item that you got to go to this place or anything. But obviously KU was in town, so it was full. The atmosphere was really good. But yeah, I was impressed with it. But yeah, travel, everything was great. It just the scoreboard did not go our way.
Heard you also swung by. Seth Tremble gave you ice cream.
Seth Tremble, who just had an injury yesterday
Yeah.
at practice, he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, which I hate because yeah, we stopped in a local Ben and Jerry's that Seth Trimble owns, so he's doing good with his NIL money in terms of giving back to the community, and yeah, it just was incredibly nice, as were his parents. So wish nothing but the best for Seth Trimble moving forward. It's unfortunate that he had that what I believe was a broken bone in his left forearm that happened at practice yesterday. So no fun for Seth Trimble. He's a really good player. Hopefully he gets back. Just can't say enough positive things about how he treated us when we saw him over at his locally owned Ben and Jerry's.
Man,
We're going to close out the show talking KU soccer, and we're going to hear from Nate Lee. All right, let's start this up, though, talking KU Arizona. This one hurts. This one really hurts. KU was on the cusp of bowl eligibility. They fall 24-20. So many opportunities in this one for KU to get a win, and they couldn't get it done. You could point to many things. Obviously, people are going to be pointing at the 4th and 2 decision by the KU coaching staff to kick a field goal late. Field goal shockingly misses from 30 yards. First miss of the season on any kick by Laith Marjan. And because of that, KU remained only up 3. Did the missed field goal actually matter? Well, it wouldn't have if you look at just the final score, because Arizona went down and scored a touchdown anyway. So that's going to be a point that we discuss here in the opening segment. But KU had a pick six called back due to a penalty. They had what would have been another pick six not executed because of a drop. And because of that, they still didn't force any turnovers. They didn't turn the ball over themselves, as somehow it ended up being 0-0 in that category, but just 3 second-half points for Kansas. The Oklahoma State game notwithstanding, KU has struggled so much scoring the football in the second half, and they just needed one touchdown to get it done. Dan, wherever you want to take this to get this started, because it's just so tough to take as KU falls to 5-5. It's Arizona celebrating being bowl eligible. And yeah, KU is left with 2 opportunities that we're going to talk about with Iowa State and Utah, 2 quality programs and good teams. KU's going to have to beat one of them, but I feel like you gave this one away because you thought you played better in all 3 phases.
Yeah. I mean, gut wrenching, heartbreaking. And we're seeing it time and time again. And look, there's a couple of different storylines about this game. I'll start off with a positive because I think I think I need that for my own, psyche, my own mental well-being. Defense, I thought played great, right? Except there's 2 drives in that game where I thought they were bad, including the last drive, and that's a part of the largest storyline out of this game. I thought the defense played fantastic. I mean, you saw pressure all over the place. I mean, you look at Noah Fifita's stats on this game. 16 of 31, not good. 158 yards, not good. He did have 2 touchdowns. One of them was early. Another one was kind of closer to the middle of the game, but he wasn't very good today or on Saturday. And I thought it was a testament to the defense. I thought you saw Dean Miller playing really good ball. Like I said, Brinkley, he got his first 2 sacks, 1.5 sacks technically, because I think DJ Withers or Tommy Dunn, one of the 2 guys, were also in on one of those. You were bringing a lot of pressure out with Jalen Todd. You saw Saeed Gibbs even getting back there in the backfield every once in a while. So this is the best defensively schemed game plan that I've seen out of Kansas this year, aside from maybe the West Virginia game. I thought that it was a complete 180 in terms of what we've seen out of them. I thought defense was great. I thought running attack was excellent as well. I mean, we saw Jalen, granted, we knew their defensive line was big and they were going to be able to get pressure, and Jalen Daniels does such a good job of evading pressure and scrambling to get those yards. I think Jalen did a great job. He had 74 rushing yards on the day. Highshaw had 67 rushing yards on the day, 3.7 per carry, which isn't great, but you still were able to establish a run and in theory, run clock off. Now let's talk about the interception pick 6 from Leroy Harris that got called back. It was called back. It was a long interception right before the half, seconds left in the half. It was just gut-wrenching is the only word I can really think of. And I know I used that before, but it is gut-wrenching because Kansas should have been up 24-7 at that point. Instead, all of a sudden, they punch one in. It's 2017. That completely changed the game. I think
it's a 14-point turnaround.
Absolutely.
And I haven't gotten a chance to see the angle where Jalen Todd got flagged for a defensive hold, but it did feel like the flag came in late, which made it worse because you're celebrating. Leroy makes an incredible play. And again, this Kansas defense has been starving for takeaways, and he somehow uses his athleticism to break tackles and takes it to the house. It should have been 24-7. And then you see the laundry on the field. And at that point, not only is it not 7 points for Kansas, it's an automatic first down inside the red zone for Arizona. So, I mean, a lot of teams are going to give up points after that. So Arizona gifted with that first down, and they cut it to 3. And like I said, a 14-point turnaround. That's easily the biggest play of the game. And what I didn't want to happen is pivotal, what happened to where we are talking right now about that. Like literally as I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, I don't want that to be the play that we're talking about on Monday as one that turned it around. And there still were many chances that KU had to where we wouldn't be talking about that as the biggest play because KU could have put this game away in multiple ways. Only 3 second half points, which has been a problem. And certainly the Saeed Gibbs dropped what would have been pick 6. Those are the plays that you have to make. And we've talked about that throughout the season. BMAC joined me on the postgame locker room show and talked about there's about 5 plays in every game that you either make them or you don't. And KU had the opportunities they couldn't. They had a couple of drop passes as well offensively. And we can talk stats and all that. But, what it came down to, KU with about 3 minutes to go had a 4th and 2, and analytics said to go for it. The thinking of not going for it is, okay, you're up 3. If you go up 6, you're not up a touchdown, but then a field goal doesn't tie. Then you're forcing Arizona to score a touchdown. KU fans, I'm sure, are in their feelings a little bit, and I want to get your take on that because, unfortunately, we've seen this so often to where the defense at game point can't get a stop. And you hate to blame the defense. Like I said, offense just needed to score one more touchdown. But the 4th and 2 field goal, it missed. Had it gone in, maybe Arizona still scores a touchdown. Certainly that's what's happened the past couple of years at the end of games in these close games that hurt so much. But sure enough, it's like Groundhog's Day again, seeing the end of the game. But that 4th and 2, KU needed 2 yards, not 2 yards to be bowl eligible. They still had to get another first down, and they still had to get a touchdown, which has proven to be difficult in the second halves of a lot of these games. But the field goal miss, momentum shifted to Arizona, and the Cats went down and scored.
Well, it's not even about the field goal miss, because if Lath Marjan hits that field goal, Kansas still loses the game. You're only up by 6 at that point. They just need to kick an extra point, and they win, right? So, look, I understand Jalen Daniels came out of the game and he was confused about it. Nobody really knew what was happening all of a sudden. And we'll hear from Jalen later on in the week, but Jalen said all of a sudden, one of the referees said, "Hey, you got to go out of the game." And Jalen's like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, you just got to go out." So that would have been either Cole Ballard or Isaiah Marshall. Now, any other team in the nation goes, "Oh man, we have our backup quarterbacks coming in the game on 4th and 2." You're 2 yards away from bowl eligibility,
See,
essentially.
I don't. That's what I just said, though. I don't know that I agree
I
with that
I
because you still had to score a touchdown to actually
Sure.
essentially salt
But
the game away.
you could have bled the clock, and I think that would have shifted momentum
Right. Certainly, the
incredibly.
percentages would have been
Yes,
significantly in your
right.
favor if you get a first down there.
But the percentages are not in your favor if you look at history and how Kansas's defense holds up in the last 2 minutes of halves and only being up. You're essentially making a one-score game, and both situations are less than a touchdown and an extra point, essentially, right? So analytics tell you absolutely have to go for it. And like I was saying, with any other team, I don't know, I'm sure there's a couple, but most teams in the nation where you have to put your backup quarterback in, you're panicking. Kansas shouldn't have panicked there. You have Isaiah Marshall and you have Cole Ballard, two guys who you bring in specifically for run packages, designed quarterback draw plays, designed quarterback runs with those two guys. You're telling me that they don't have a 4th and 2 play, like a wildcat formation, not even a wildcat formation, just a direct snap to them to try to get 2 yards, like in their 2-point conversion portion of the play calling? Of course they do, right? So I think that was the wrong move. I absolutely think that was the wrong move. And Lance Leipold had said after the game, he said, "Look, we knew Jalen wasn't going to be wasn't going to be in the game for that, so we decided to kick field goal. Would have been the best, and put faith in your defense to get stops." And I understand putting your faith in the defense because the defense had been playing so good up till that point, right? That drive, and I think the missed field goal by Lath just completely deflated the Jayhawks. I mean that you felt it. You felt the air kind of come out of the room wherever you're watching it. You're like, "Oh no, I've I've seen this before." You know what I mean? Like this is, I know what's going to happen. Arizona's going to drive down the field and score a touchdown with seconds to go, and Kansas is going to try to get a Hail Mary, and they're not going to be able to get it. I mean, we've seen this happen before. Like you said, it's Groundhog's Day. It just happens over and over and over again. On that 4th and 2, you absolutely have to go for it. I don't care who you are. It's you have to dig deep. It's a gutsy. I mean, it's a gutsy play call to do that, and you have to show that you have some guts to win that game. I mean, you have to play to win the game. And I feel like Herm Edwards saying that you play to win the game. You absolutely have to play to win the game. You don't play to be safe and to try to get points on the board and go, all right, well, hopefully our defense gets a stop here. It's like no. You put that game away. If you get that 4th and 2, you're putting that game away. I believe Arizona had one timeout. I could be wrong about this. I think they only had one timeout left. Kansas could have bled the clock so much more. I mean, they bled the clock all the way down to seconds left on the game clock, right? When they got the ball back after the missed field goal. And, you don't get the 4th down. Okay. They get the ball at the 12-yard line again, but you don't feel like you were scared to try to win the game, right? I think you're looking at this in a different light of, dang it, our guys weren't able to make the play. You didn't put your guys in a position to make a play, and I think that is a tremendous miscarriage of I don't want to say justice, but like you have to put Isaiah Marshall or Cole Ballard out there, and you have to allow them to be the hero of that game.
It's interesting because, had Kansas decided to go for it, people would say, all right, KU's got faith that these guys are going to get it done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the flip side, they wanted to get up by 6 because they had faith in their defense, right? I
Yeah.
mean, is that not true? Granted, I agree. Obviously, in hindsight, we're going to say, yeah, we should have gone for it. You like what you've seen on those quarterback run packages, not as if Isaiah Marshall or Cole Ballard can't throw the ball also,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
If they were
yeah.
in there. It would have been interesting to see if the decision would have changed if JD was able to be out there. But yeah, it ends up being, like I said, deflating that Marjan misses the field goal. He's been so money all year, missed it there. And maybe if he did make it, it would have been different. But when you have the missed field goal, all the momentum has swung. And despite the fact that the Kansas defense had been so good all game, like you said, best game of the year with 5 sacks and 6 TFLs, well, you're only going to hold down a Big 12 offense like Arizona so much, right?
Yeah.
You couple that with the momentum and the Wildcats side, and yeah, it's really disheartening. And again, what was so upsetting is that, okay, maybe offense was kind of a wash for both teams, but Kansas was better defensively than Arizona was,
100%.
and Kansas was way better on special teams. You had the missed field goal, but Marjan also hit a 50-yarder and a 46-yarder. Plus, Finn Lappin was constantly flipping the field when needed. KU had short fields, and Arizona had long fields, and it didn't end up mattering as KU was better in pretty much every phase. KU more third down conversions. They were 2 for 2 on fourth down conversions. They ran 10 more plays. They had nearly 14 yards per completion to Arizona's 10. They held the ball longer, 35-30, time of possession to 24-30. And then I mentioned the big ones, 5 sacks for KU. Arizona didn't have any.
Yeah.
I mean, KU protected Jalen Daniels. That's one of the positives in this one. Again, the negatives are the lack of execution. That's what it comes down to. There's plays to be made. We had drops from our receivers. A couple different guys had big drops, and then you got to make those plays. You got to make the takeaway play, the big game-breaking play. We talked about that so often, and for whatever reason, it hasn't been able to happen. Of course, you finally do that with Leroy Harris making an awesome play, and it gets called back because of a flag and gifts the Cats an automatic first down. But then you had the Saeed Gibbs one, and that's just something that, Dan, it's hurt. It hurts as a KU football fan because there have been opportunities the past 2-3 years where Kansas could have won a game. And you can talk about, coaching decisions, and certainly, yeah, they're going to be looked under a microscope, and there's reasons to believe that this coaching decision would be better than that one or that sort of thing. The players got to make the plays. The players got to make the plays. Rich Miller's got to get that interception and return it for a touchdown against K-State 2 years ago.
Yep.
Then we're not talking about losing to K-State 17 straight years. Make the play. Saeed Gibbs, you got to catch the ball. It was a good pass breakup. You got to catch the ball, and you got to score. The players have to do it. The coaches, I understand, they get paid a lot of money. They're going to be put under a microscope. Like I said, the players are the ones out there. And again, as it goes down, because of the flag, because of the drop, KU has another game where defensively they don't get any takeaways. And despite winning special teams, despite being way better on defense than Arizona, it didn't matter because you didn't have that game-clinching play. And on the offensive side, again, no touchdowns in the second half. Just not what we need when Kansas played well enough to win this one.
I agree with you for the most part, but I do have a little bit of pushback because I think it's the coach's responsibility to put you in a position to make the plays.
The football's in your hand.
No, I'm still talking about this fourth down. I know.
Okay.
I just cannot get it out of my head. I'm still talking about this fourth down. I pulled up the stats. Cole Ballard on his season so far, he has 14 carries. He averages 5.9 yards per carry. Isaiah Marshall has 9 carries, averages 13.1 yards per carry. Now, granted, that's skewed by the 43-yarder. I understand that. You have 2 yards. You have to put one of those 2 guys in. They can do it. Like, whenever they come in, also, the defense knows that they're going to run the ball, right? They know that it's going to be a designed quarterback run, and they still are able to get those chunk plays. So I think you absolutely have to set up your guys in order to make the plays. Now, where I do agree with you is that the defense was not able to make the plays on that last drive. The defense completely gave that up. And yeah, like you said, maybe it was deflating, the missed field goal, and maybe the players, it sunk in too. We're like, oh crap, we've seen this before. We've been in this exact situation before, 10 times. They're gonna run the ball up on us, and they're gonna go down and score from the 12-yard line. Maybe that was the case, right? Just maybe. But at the same time, like, you have to set yourself up for success if you're the coaching staff, and they just didn't allow them that opportunity. I think the majority of it, people will look at the fourth down, 4th and 2. I understand that, but also where I do agree with you is that the defense completely blew that game at the end by letting up those big plays. 22-yard rushing touchdown where it was an absolute stone wall of offensive linemen for Arizona sealing that off. He was untouched. There wasn't a guy within 5 yards of him on that rush. The defense has got to be better on those last plays, and they have to continue. And we know that they've done this, but they have to continue to work on this in the bye week. They have to work on this every single practice of 2-minute defense. And we know that they do that, and that's a frustrating thing.
Yeah, struggling at the end of halves still.
We know that this has been a point of emphasis for this Kansas squad is, okay, how's our defense going to handle, being up less than a touchdown and they had 88 yards to go? How are you going to handle stopping this? They go through that. You think they don't practice this? Of course they do. That's the frustrating thing, is that it continues to happen.
And it comes down to execution, which I know fans probably hate hearing because it's just like, go be better, play better, and it just didn't work out. But all that being said about the defense, you give up 24 points on the road in a Big 12 game, you got to win that game.
Yeah.
And there's problems with the offense in the second half again. KU is going to have to get some answers. And now you can't do anything about this. We got through the segment breaking it down, and now we just got to win at least one of the final 2 games because you're at Iowa State, a team you've beaten 3 consecutive seasons. They're feeling good after a comeback win, a shocker of a comeback win in Fort Worth, 20-17 over TCU. And then on Black Friday, you've got Utah at home, 11 a.m., Utah, top 15 team. One of those has got to be a win for KU to be playing in the postseason. Had this one in your grasp, felt like you outplayed the Wildcats, and alas, you have to focus on the Cyclones on November 22nd. No game time yet announced for that one at Jack Trice Stadium. After this, we're going to hear the thoughts post-game of head coach Lance Leipold on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Well, we were thinking it was going to be a joyous Saturday in Tucson and here in Lawrence as well if KU was able to hold on to that lead that they led Arizona by for so much of this game, but that did not happen as they fell to the Cats 24-20. Now KU 5-5, they're 3-4 in Big 12 play, and as we talked about, they got to get one of these final 2. And now, unfortunately, Dan, this is the 3rd straight bye week after a loss.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real bummer. So we got to stew on this a little bit as KU lost at Mizzou, at Texas Tech, and now at Arizona before their bye weeks.
Well, we can't even talk about the streak anymore of Lance Leipold off of byes because, as we know, coming out of the bye, heading into K-State, that was Kansas's worst game of the year, right? So
historically, he has been great.
Yes, historically.
And he's also historically been great against Iowa State.
That's true, which there's 2 ways of thinking about this. Is that's a good thing, and Iowa State is definitely scared of us because we know they have the number. And then on the flip side of it, they have a chip on their shoulder, and they know that Kansas beat them a bunch in the Lance Leipold area.
Because you could pretty much.
I know. I can form any agenda that I want to.
Yeah, right. No, it's great. That's what we do, right? Well, our Monday shows are a lot more exciting when KU waxes Oklahoma State or picks up a nice win. But hey, we're talking Jayhawks, and we're gonna remain crimson and blue through and through here at Kansas Nation. Let's hear from head coach Lance Leipold post game the loss to Arizona.
Just starting off, how do you think the team played overall today?
I'm proud of their effort. Thought we battled. Like a lot of times, I think there are some opportunities out there that we had a couple opportunities for turnovers, didn't turn out. We obviously elected to kick a field goal, thinking that they hadn't scored the half, that it would take a touchdown to beat us. Obviously that can be scrutinized as far as going forward. We couldn't put Jalen back in the game. We couldn't buy him back into the game with a timeout, and we just felt that putting one of the other guys in that situation was better to kick the field goal. Ultimately, I make that decision, and understand that that's one that can be scrutinized pretty highly. So I thought our guys played hard. I thought we had flashes, but I think both teams played that way today. So
going to that 4th and 2, and maybe you answered it there, but how close were you to wanting to lean towards
if Jalen was in the game, we were going for it. And then when they stopped it and they took him out, and I needed a clarification on the rule, but since the officials took him out by that, it's not like if the helmet comes off, we can use a timeout to put him back in the game. With the injury, we could not. So it was, we were going to have to put a different quarterback in, and talking with Z, and we made the decision to kick the field goal and make a touchdown beat us, and unfortunately Lath missed his first, and either way it probably didn't make that big a difference, but if you ask me again, would I make the same decision? I don't know right now. I have to admit that. So, yeah, it's disappointing for us in this team because we controlled the clock pretty well there. We converted another 4th down in that drive. We stayed pretty aggressive in that to the point of getting some balls thrown and caught in a time where most people think you're going to be just running clock. So.
I mean, you mentioned there, but for most of the second half, it was a very consistent performance from the defense. What did you like about what they're able to do for the majority of it, and do you see what happened maybe on the last play?
I did. Obviously, we miss a gap. We're bringing pressure. We miss a gap in there, and probably a safety's removed out on a receiver, and for something I didn't get a chance to look at, without any media timeouts to look at the tablet or anything. I thought our defense, especially second half, probably even in the second quarter, we started to play more aggressively, more confidently. Flew around. I thought we tackled pretty well. I think we had a pretty good idea how they're going to attack us, and we were able to get throw a very accurate quarterback, really out of rhythm. I thought there for a while, but again, they made the plays down the stretch.
Do you feel like it was pressure or guys getting off their blocks kind of allowed the defensive front to get in the backfield as much as they were able to today?
I think it was a combination. I think obviously there were some pressures and blitzes that we had some free guys, and obviously if you're doing that, coverage is pretty good on the backside that doesn't allow the ball to be thrown. But I think there were some instances that we were winning some battles on the outside with our defensive ends and decent push upside inside that allowed the pocket to kind of condense a little bit on them too.
You mentioned the turnovers that got overturned being something that happened just with the one right before the half, the pick 6 that got turned back. Just how deflating was that, and what did you see on that one? Yeah,
it's pretty deflating. You go up 24/7 at half. I mean, that's huge. That's huge, and to have a defensive holding off the play on a play that's probably that type of contact is very common, I would say. So obviously it's called. I can't change it. So it's Leroy made a heck of a play and then even a better run to take it all the way. And again, you're up 24/7 at half getting the ball. Who knows what happens from there? But we didn't, and you can't sit and complain about it right now and do that. And then it was close on Taylor Davis's one he's diving, I guess. The review shows, I guess, it hit the ground. Our guys upstairs thought it probably hit the ground too, so he thought he kind of was able to corral it with his knees, but I guess he didn't. So, but yeah.
Offensively, in the second half, what do you feel like led to some of the struggles where it's another second half without an offensive touchdown?
It's a couple things with them being very disruptive again, and them being able to, some of our third down stuff probably was obviously what were we on third down today? 6 of 17,
Yeah, 3 of 11 in the second half.
Is that what it was? Yeah, just without really breaking down all those calls, I really don't have a great answer right now. It isn't like, some was Jalen getting some pressure. I think we had a drop or two in there as well. That balls were, looked like they were off hands, but yeah, they did a good job in those situations for sure.
When you have a bye week and then just 2 games, how much of a sense of urgency do you feel like there is for the team going into the last bye week now?
Well, obviously this one's thing. We know we're fighting to and one of the things I talked about, this team wants to play a 13th game. There's no doubt about that. And for us to find a way to make sure we hit that benchmark is going to be really important. Yeah, it's from the way the year was. I don't know exactly. Your sense of urgency. It's we've got a schedule built out for next week that's pretty similar to what we've done, slight modifications. Again, you know, as like any other time when they get back in the building, you've got to move on, and you got to keep working at what you're deficient in. And again, I think this team has done that throughout the year, and I'm confident they'll do it again.
Looking at the last 2 games, what do you think it's going to take to get over the hump, to get that 6th win, to be able to play the 13th game?
You know, complete effort in all 3 phases. You know, we're going to play good football teams. You got one that's ranked in top 25, and then you got a team that was picked to be one of the teams to win in the league that was ranked. And you have to go to their place. You know, it's gonna take consistency in all 3 phases. We've shown flashes of being really good on defense, and I thought, like today, it was 5 sacks. I thought was very disruptive that way. We've got to continue to cut down on some of the explosive plays. I think offensively, we're better today. What's Jalen's, you know, again, just a little bit over 50%. We still, you know, which sometimes late in the game, those get a little skewed when you're trying to make those plays. We got to continue to work on consistency of getting those things kind of feeding off each other like we were in the first part of the year. I don't know if we fully have that, where our RPO game is really where it was at times, and looking for that consistency and execution when needed.
That's KU head coach Lance Leipold following the heartbreaker at Arizona. We talked about this a little bit ago, but I hate the fact that we don't have a game on Saturday.
Yeah,
right.
I know.
I mean,
I know.
we
You
just
got
gotta stew on this.
that's what sucks about losing and then going into a bye week, is that like a bye week should be a chance for everybody to get their heads right and, you know, get healthy. And you're looking forward, like, okay, well, at least we have a bye heading on the next one. But also, you had to sit on that
Yeah.
loss for 2 weeks.
You know, I'm
and,
a big.
And it's even worse that it's so heartbreaking like this one.
You know, I'm a big baseball fan, and I hate like when the Royals lose a Wednesday afternoon game and then are off on Thursday.
Yeah.
Like losing the day before an off day,
Yeah.
especially like a day game before an off. It's just like,
Just gotta
great.
sit
Now
on
we
it.
don't play until Friday night, which you know, in baseball, that's a long break.
Yeah.
But yeah, KU's gonna have to get right at Jack Trice Stadium. It would be great if they go out and get up by about 4 touchdowns, right? Make everybody feel a little bit better. But
Yeah.
every game in the Big 12 is scratching and clawing, and KU hasn't had enough of them go their way here the past couple years. This season, hey, if you're able to get to 6, even 7 wins, you'll be feeling great. You get to 7 wins, we'll be feeling a lot better, right, Dan?
Yeah,
I mean, that'll
absolutely.
maybe not erase some of these losses, because you can't erase those, but 7 and 5 would be a great season. There's still a chance Kansas can do that. We have to see first how the Hawks do in Ames. After this, talking KU. Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Hey, we're going to have great coverage all week. Of course, KU basketball tomorrow takes on Texas A&M Corpus Christi. KansasNation.com is the place to be. Got live updates, videos, photos, news stories, anything you need or want for KU basketball. And, of course, KU football coverage as well. A little bit strange that we've got 3 bye weeks after, you know, week 0. We knew it was going to be kind of weird, but they're all placed nice spots. You get a little break.
Yeah.
But for people like us who like watching games and getting wins, and especially after losses, we'd like to not maybe have as many bye weeks. But
That's true.
KU basketball will take center stage on Saturday instead of KU football, as the Hawks will host Princeton at 1 o'clock after tomorrow's 7 p.m. tilt against A&M Corpus Christi. KU, it just came out a little bit earlier today, Dan. They're still in the AP top 25, but barely.
Yeah,
ranked number
good for them.
25 in the country as they dropped from number 19. Dropped a little bit further than I thought.
Yeah.
Honestly, you go on the road and lose to UNC in what many viewed as a coin flip game. But, of course, that's how it goes. You got to win the games. And now KU, after the 87-74 loss, has 2 home games against those aforementioned teams. And then they head to Madison Square Garden to take on Duke. Very curious if Kansas loses that one, how many KU fans are going to be up in arms. But, yeah, bottom line is, didn't go well in the second half. You felt really good at halftime with KU up 37-29 at the Dean Dome. And this is a UNC program that you've beaten 5 straight times. KU was leading the all-time series 7-6. I kind of felt like there was a little bit of history in the second half where there was a little bit of UNC's due to get us. Of course, that's just kind of an auxiliary thought compared to what actually happened on the court, which was really a beatdown. UNC hit 18 of their first 23 shots in the second half. It works out to about 3,642% from the field. So that was pretty good. I mean,
Did
they
you
were
do that
hitting.
math by yourself?
Yes, they
Wow,
were
that's-
hitting everything from three, the back doors, the struggle with ball screen defense. Henry Vasar was awesome. Caleb Wilson is incredible. He has the
He's so
body
good,
of Kevin
yeah.
Durant. I mean, he looks like what a prototypical NBA guy does. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. Those guys were on their game, as was Seth Trimble. KU got 22 from Darren Peterson, but what it came down to, Dan, clear as day, is the 58-point second half. UNC, too many good looks. They caught fire, and the vibes were all Tar Heels after that.
Yeah, and look, the second, I mean, look, like I said this in the open, it's tail two halves, right? I mean, Kansas came out looking really, really good, right? They were hitting everything. Darren Peterson looked good. I mean, you saw a bunch of guys hitting a bunch of shots, and then all of a sudden, the halftime rolls around, and Kansas just gets dominated down low, and you could feel it coming on in the first half. I remember watching that first half, thinking, "Man, Henry Vasar is a better post, at least in this game, than Flory Bidungo." Like Flory Bidungo was struggling against Henry Vasar, and they completely took advantage of that. Right? They understood the size mismatch, and that was the thing that concerned me heading in. Right? They had 3 starters who were all over 6'10". So you looked at the 3 spot for Kansas, who was Cole Rosario, and you're thinking, man, that guy has to guard a 6'10" guy, right? Trey White has to guard a 6'10" guy. Flory Bidunga, I think he's only 6'9". So like we were completely out heighted, I guess that's not a word, but they were taller than us in every aspect of the game. And so you just kind of hoped that they didn't know that. They couldn't figure that out, and they figured it out, right? Points in the paint. This is the thing that really gets me. Points in the paint. North Carolina had 48 points in the paint. Kansas only had 20. And that is completely unacceptable.
KU
right?
is also minus 12 in rebounds. A lot of those were,
Yeah.
were long shots, but we say that often, right? You're going to have
Yeah.
to get the long rebounds as well. But yeah, points in the paint, that's supposed to be flipped.
Absolutely.
I mean, usually it's Kansas. And again, you don't have Hunter Dickinson.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about that in a negative light at times, because he was a double-double, because he would score in the paint so often. And we know that he wasn't the most athletic guy and not a great rim protector and all that, but he would score in the paint, and Kansas was always good.
Right.
UNC's paint production, like you said, getting 48, so many of that were due to KU struggling with the back doors. I mentioned the ball screen defense as well. It just fell apart. And
Yeah.
UNC missed some open shots in the first half where they scored 29. They end up with 87 after a 58-point second half. I was thinking there, man, they're not going to miss. They're going to score 100. KU a couple times in the second half when they got down kind of threw a dart at it, but they just couldn't get any stops. Remember the back-to-back threes hit by Marco Jackson and Jaden Dawson cut it to 60 to 54, but then UNC just kept scoring, and you're not going to come back when that happens.
Yeah, I think that UNC had the momentum, right? And we talk about momentum like it's a real thing. A lot of people say like, oh, well, it's just, you go out there and you play the game of basketball or football or whatever. But UNC had the momentum 100%. And I think that they were feeling confident, and they were not missing anything else. And they weren't going to allow themselves to lose that lead that they worked so hard to get. And a lot of it was, some transition stuff as well. Kansas's transition defense, I didn't think was great. I thought they were faster than us in a lot of facets of the game, especially in that second half, right? And, we're just going to continue to talk about Henry Vasar and Caleb Wilson down low. Those guys were, absolute difference makers. Caleb Wilson is
he can score in any way.
It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
Side tangent. This might be the best freshman class I've ever seen in my life.
It's got to be.
They're
has
so
to
good.
be. It's.
Cole
really...
Pete going for 30, Caleb Wilson averaging 24 points per game or whatever. Darren Peterson, obviously, AJ DeBonce is really good. There's so many freshmen in this class who are just taking over, and they're essentially the leaders of their programs, which is just shocking to see because we haven't seen that in quite a while. So it's crazy to see a guy like Caleb Wilson go up against a veteran guy like Trey White, or even a guy who's been developing under Bill Self for at least an extra semester in Bryson Tiller, and still continuing to be able to hit those shots and just take over games.
Caleb Wilson, like I said, he's going to be a top 5 pick. He looks like an NBA guy out there, as does Peterson, no doubt about that. And yeah, I think it's good for college basketball that this class is so loaded NBA draft class too. We'll see how the dominoes fall on that front, but talk about some of the individuals. In the first half, it was a lot of Darren Peterson doing Darren Peterson things. He ends up with 22 points. He goes 3 of 5 from 3, has 3 boards and 3 assists. And the other guy who contributed in a big way in the first half was Bryson Tiller. He has 4 threes. How nice is it that KU's got a guy who's 6'11" who can step out and stroke it? Now, he's not going to shoot 80% from 3, and he needs to stay on the court as he picked up 5 fouls in just 15 minutes. But he's going to, I think, be a key part to this Kansas team. As we talked about after the opening victory against Green Bay, I truly feel, and it's not rocket science, that Darren Peterson and Flory Bidunga are going to take this team as far as it can go. But you need these other guys to come through. I think the other guys for Kansas to reach their peak are going to be Cole Rosario and Bryson Tiller.
Yeah.
I think those are the guys that Kansas is going to have really good seasons if they want to be a top 10 team. Rosario got to see the ball go in the cup a couple times. Once, of course, was the last field goal of the game when it was well in hand, but a couple threes made for him. And now we're seeing what Tiller can do. If Tiller can stay on the court, if those guys turn into real guys, then you've got a roster, right? We'll hear what Kevin Flaherty thinks next segment when he joins us on Zoom. But Melvin Council Jr. struggled in this one. He was just 2 of 11 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. He did have 7 assists, but you got to get more from Flory before you start talking about some of those other pieces. Flory just 8 and 7 in 35 minutes. He's going to be a guy that is going to be looked under a microscope this year, no question.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to put up big numbers. He's going to have to. He brings some of those things that Dickinson didn't have, like the athleticism, like the rim protection. Now, can he bring the production from a scoring and rebounding standpoint that Dickinson did?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the opposite of Hunter in terms of, like, he's so good on defense, you know, in terms of rim protection and in terms of, you know, kind of short range acceleration, right? You can see that he's faster and can jump higher than Hunter, but on the offensive side of the ball, he's just not there, right? And you're seeing that. You're seeing him get pushed around. And I talked about this in the Fort Hays State game, where he was getting pushed around by Division II guys who, you know, played 2A ball in Kansas. You just cannot. If you're Flory Bidunga and you're the starting center for Kansas, you can't be getting pushed around like this. And it was abundantly clear in almost every single game except for the Green Bay game that was the case, where Flory just isn't strong enough yet. So he needs to get stronger with the ball, keep the ball above his head, and, you know, not allow guys to kind of get around him and push him around. I mean, that's just such a big thing with Flory. I mean, all of the pieces are there for him, and it's just you can see that he's just I'm not going to use the word soft because I don't think he's soft, but he's just not strong enough, and he is getting pushed around quite a bit. And I mean, look, the size mismatch was obviously huge, right? I mean, you look at the plus minus. Cole Rosario was minus 20 when he was in there, and most of that time he was guarding a guy who was 6'10". Like, that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's just you're outsized. They're going to be getting those ball screens, those backdoor things, a ton. And, you know, Trey White, he had 4 turnovers, 3 of them. I mean, if I'm remembering right, 3 of them were critical times when UNC was going on those runs.
He's going to have to be a guy who is a 1.5 turnover a game guy, because we saw some turnovers against Green Bay as well. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that 3-4 position comes into play. Again, I think for Kansas to be great, then Cole Rosario and Bryson Tiller need to come into their own. And again, it's early. We said before the season that KU is going to take some lumps. They're going to take some losses. And hopefully they're able to beat Duke, because we're going to be feeling really good if they beat Duke. If not, then, you know, some fans are going to be checking out, meaning they'll be keeping one eye on the TV and just going on social media saying they're checking out.
Well, I will say this, but Bryson Tiller was primed to take that next step, right? He went 4 for 4 from the 3-point line, right? I mean, he
got to stay on the court.
He looked insane, but yeah, like you said, he fouled out in 15 minutes. You cannot get into foul trouble, man. Especially
when Kansas is depending on him heavily to be that next option.
I mean, Trey White has those turnovers. You need to be able to look at Bryson and say, go in, right? And I think that there is going to be a breaking point at some point in the season where you have to put Bryson Tiller in at that 4 spot. You can put Trey White at the 3 spot, and you could be a coin flip between Cole Rosario and Trey White, whoever's playing that small forward position. But Bryson Tiller is so good right now on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball, for that matter. Now, obviously, getting into foul trouble is not ideal, he's good enough. He needs to be starting.
And KU needs his offense
And
right
they
now.
absolutely
We're going to
need
have
his
to see,
off-
because you're going to need
Yes.
the offense from Rosario and from Tiller and from the other guys as well. Like Trey White, he's your starting 4. I understand Carolina is a lot bigger, but he only pulls down 2 rebounds, right?
Right.
And other guys need to do better on that front too. No rebounds for Rosario in 20
Yeah.
minutes. Didn't expect that to be a thing. And then nobody else had more than 3 rebounds on the entire team. And I get,
Right.
again, a lot of those were due to the long shots, long rebounds, that sort of thing. But KU just needs more production. White is going to have to be somebody who takes care of the ball and contributes in those counting categories, as is Rosario. Mentioned no rebounds, no assists. These guys, again, we're going to give them some time for sure. But there's areas for improvement. What's frustrating also is that KU goes 12 of 25 from 3. I don't know how often they'll do that, and they end up losing. So
right. No, I mean, they shot exceptionally well, right? And by the way, a lot of that was because of Bryson Tiller hitting those 4 shots. But Bryson Tiller, I mean, we're going to look at the plus minus because I like to look at that as a legitimate stat. I think that really shows you, kind of how the game flow is happening while these guys are out there. Bryson is the only aside from Jamari McDowell, who was plus 13 because he was only in like the first half. I think he had a couple of minutes in the second
plus
half.
13.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
That's
Wow,
kind of crazy, right? It's kind of a weird stat. But Bryson was the only other guy in the plus, right? He was plus 1. Now Sami's Calderon was at 0. Everyone else was in the minus, and that's in terms of point differentials. So Bryson Tiller being in there, it's very clear how much of an impact that he had. He just cannot get into foul trouble, and he needs to be out there on the court, because if Kansas wants to stay in games offensively, they need Bryson Tiller to stay in the game.
At least at this point, right? We need these other guys to come through. And Jaden Dawson, a guy who we saw only a little bit, he did hit 1 3, but that's a guy you're heavily depending on to bring offense when he's out there. So we'll see where the offense comes. But again, KU shot better than UNC from the 3-point range. UNC gets 8 more shot attempts by virtue a lot because of the plus 12 that UNC was on the glass. And I think we're seeing, at least in my opinion, how this team's going to round together. We only have a couple games in our pocket right now, but why I say that about Rosario and Tiller being kind of the X factors for Kansas being a top 10 team, assuming that you're going to get the best version of Peterson and assuming you're going to get the best version of Bidunga, is it's seeming like Elmarco Jackson's going to be more so in that reserve glue guy type role, who can hit you a shot occasionally and run the offense if DP is out and Melvin Council's not out. Council is a guy who needs to contribute something offensively, and he's going to be very fast, very good in transition, and needs to be a top tier defender. But that's why I go to the offensive side. I think it's going to be those guys. Now, granted, I could be totally wrong. Maybe the KU's best offensive players outside of Peterson and Bidunga will be Trey White and Jaden Dawson. Who knows at this point? It's still really early, but I think you can see the ceiling that some of these guys have, and we'll just have to see. KU, I think, number one thing we can talk about personnel. Number one thing, Kansas needs to be better defensively, and that's what they can get out of this week is, okay, we need to figure out how to guard ball screens better, not get backdoored, get out in transition a little bit more, and fix what happened in the second half against UNC, because that was a domino effect where it just kept being bad all half.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, Peterson was out there for 28 minutes and he was exceptional, right? And we're going to talk about this every single game about how Darren Peterson, whenever he's out there, he does tremendous stuff. But to your point, Kansas needs somebody else. You cannot rest everything on the shoulders of Darren Peterson. They have to get consistent scoring from somebody else. They got it from Bryson in the 15 minutes that he was in until he fouled out, right? Flory Bidunga having 8 points and 7 rebounds. You cannot do that against a blue blood, right? You have to have Flory play the game of his life against other top tier bigs in the country, right? That's why you're here. That's why Flory Bidunga is here, is to, be the guy that Darren can feed it to whenever Darren can't get a shot up. And you have to be able to finish around the rim. You have to be able to utilize your post moves, get to the bucket, and dunk the ball. Kansas had maybe 2 dunks on the game. I mean, it was there was nothing close to, and I think maybe one of them was like a fast break, right?
I know Bidunga had 1 at least, and Peterson had 1.
And Peterson had 1 on a fast break. That's it. That was it. And not just because dunks are cool. You need to do that to get to the basket and A, show your dominance, and B, it shows you that you're not getting pushed around, and Bidungu is getting pushed around all day, and it's just unacceptable, right? And we've seen him play to the best of his ability, right? But it was against Green Bay. You gotta continue, and the 2 games coming up, you got Corpus Christi, you got Princeton. You feel okay about those, right? But at the same time, I'm looking at these games kind of as, and we love to say it, like a palate cleanser, right? Princeton's good. Princeton has been historically good, right? They don't have Xavier Lee anymore. They've been historically good. They've been, they've had a bunch of upsets in the past. So this isn't going to be just one that you can kind of walk all over Princeton. But at the same time, this is one for Flaherty to kind of get his feet under him, really dominate down low, and build the confidence back up, because that's what he needs. He needs confidence, and he needs strength down low.
From a scheduling standpoint, there's 2 ways to look at it. You look at it as, okay, you just lost on the road at UNC. They played really well. Not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's November 7th, all that. Other way of looking at it is, okay, we're going to only have so many opportunities to pick up marquee victories, right? And it just so happens that a lot of these games happen early in the season in non-conference. Yeah, KU will have a ton of quad 1 opportunities in Big 12 play, but after Corpus Christi and Princeton, which again, you need to be 3-1 after this week, then you go to Madison Square Garden and take on Duke. That's a really good chance right there. If you lose to Duke, then you go to the Players era where there's a lot of good teams, but Notre Dame and Syracuse, your 2 opponents, are teams that you need to beat.
Yeah.
And not from a let's improve our potential seed. You just need to beat them because you're a better team than them. They're not going to be ranked highly, that sort of thing. The third team could be anybody. It could be a St. John's. It could be, I don't know if it would end up being another Big 12 team or not, but I guess there's a world where it could be, because Baylor and Iowa State, I think, are going to be there as well. So
that sounds right.
You only have so many chances. Then you have UConn at home, right? They're a top 10 team. So you're going to have to get these wins. And we understand there's going to be growing pains, but Kansas was a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament last year because they only had 21 wins and they didn't win enough marquee games. We want to get back on that 1-2 line, right? And if that is going to happen, you got to pick up big wins against good teams, particularly in the non-conference. Even when you're still finding yourself, muddy it up and do what you need to do to get it done.
What's Bill Self's favorite thing to say at this point in the year? Guys, it's November. Let's calm down, right? And look, there's constructive criticism that we can pull out from the games that we've already played. But look, this team could look very, very different. I mean, there's always something to that whenever he says that. Guys, it's only November. He is true. Like you said, we don't know if Trey White and Jaden Dawson could be potentially those other top 2 leading scorers on this squad. Right now, they're not, but they could be. We didn't know Johnny Furphy was going to be Johnny Furphy when he came in. We didn't know Remy Martin was going to have the run that he had in March Madness when he decided to come to Kansas, right? We did not know this. So looking at this team right now, you can kind of pull things like, okay, well, Flory can improve here, right? Trey White can improve here. Corzaire needs to get better. Paul Mbia needs to get better. Jaden Dawson needs to get better. They will, right? And that comes with experience on the court. And I think that's why these next 2 games, even though they're against non-P5, P4, is it P5? I guess P5, it's P5 in basketball, right? Yeah, Big East. Against non-P5 opponents, you're still looking at this saying, like, this is a great opportunity for these guys to be able to grow. And I'm looking at Corzaire in these 2 games. I'm looking at Flory. I'm looking at Trey White and Jaden Dawson, these different guys, to build their confidence, understand their game, understand what it's like to play in a Kansas jersey at Allen Fieldhouse, and go out there and just, beat the brakes off of somebody. They did it against Green Bay, and it was fantastic. Now, maybe was playing at the Dean Dome in North Carolina this early in the season might have been a little, nervous or whatever. It didn't look like in the first half. Second half, they got killed in the paint. They got killed in transition. They got killed on those ball screens, right? So I don't know. I'm looking at these next 2 games as big time evaluation, and I'm looking for big growth from some of these guys that we're talking about who just need to get better. And there's a long list of guys on this Kansas squad that needs to get better.
The reality of the situation, which you won't see on social media, is that guys will improve.
Yeah,
They will.
that's what.
You
Yeah,
won't
that's
see
what I'm
that.
saying.
If
Yeah.
people want to jump off November 7th, November 18th, whatever it is, then feel free. But guys will improve. This team has a lot of new pieces, as a lot of teams do, but these guys have the talent. They can come together. It just was a really disappointing second half, and we'll see what happens this week. 2 hopefully get right games for KU, but one at a time. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We'll be on air with Crimson and Blue Show at 5:30. You can hear that on Sports Radio 810 WHB. After this, Kevin Flaherty is going to join us to talk KU football and basketball on Rock Chalk Sports. KansasNation.com, ESPN, Kansas City. 2. Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports here on KansasNation.com and ESPN Kansas City. Every Monday on the show, we're joined by Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network. Kevin, thanks for joining us here on Zoom. Misery loves company. We have been certainly beating ourselves up over the weekend that was the early parts of the show. Just a tough one across the board, right? I mean, KU soccer has a loss in the Big 12 tournament championship. Basketball blows an 8-point halftime lead and kind of gets crushed in the second half. And then we'll start with football, something we've seen too often recently, a late touchdown drive from an opponent gets it done. A lot to break down from this game, but KU falls by 4 in the desert. Now they still need a win for a bowl game.
Yeah, it was a game that I thought heading in probably the better chance to get to bowl eligibility was Iowa State. I thought Kansas didn't match up super well with Arizona when you looked at Arizona's secondary, and then the fact that that Arizona can throw the ball really well. I thought Kansas's secondary would probably be in for a long day. And then football happened, right? You had a game, and Kansas came out, I thought, really aggressively defensively. It was great to see them sending guys. Jalen Todd winds up with, the sacks and everything. You wind up sending extra guys, creating some negative plays on defense. And the defense, for the most part, held up pretty well until the end. The offense kind of did just enough to that point, but you find yourself in a spot where you have a great chance to win the game. And I think, unfortunately, that 4th and 2 decision is one that's going to be panned quite a bit and is going to be panned a lot if Kansas doesn't wind up going to a bowl game. But ultimately, another game where Kansas kind of had victory in its hands and slipped through the fingers like sand a little bit.
And the 4th and 2, like you said, that's going to be something that people talk about, particularly, like you said, if KU does not get to a bowl game. But offensively, if you take out the Oklahoma State game, KU just can't score in the second half. I mean, they can't. They didn't get a touchdown at all. If you get one touchdown in that game, your defense has done well enough to win you the football game. But that's just now 2 touchdowns, I believe, in the second half in those 4 non-Oklahoma State games that are most recent. Your thoughts on what's gone wrong offensively when KU needs it most?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of everything, right? It's been one of those things where the offensive line, I thought, had a fairly solid game overall, but you miss a block in a key situation, so you don't get a run. You have what looked like it, and it was hard to tell because they didn't show the replay on the broadcast, looked like a miscommunication between Jalen and Keaton Kubeka on that throw over the middle. I think Jalen thought Keaton was going to settle down. Keaton kept going. The throw was behind him and looked kind of off. And so it's been a lot of different things, guys. And you can argue in some cases, hey, maybe you haven't even loved the play call on 3rd down. And I realize with the benefit of hindsight, that's something that's really easy to say. But for whatever reason, I don't think it's necessarily, hey, a defensive adjustment thing where teams are going in at halftime and talking and saying, KU's doing this, let's take it away. I just think that Kansas has had sort of flagging execution at the wrong moments in second halves when you go back and watch.
Kevin Flaherty, KCSN, joins us here via Zoom. And Kevin, I want to talk to you about the defense because you take out that last drive entirely, also the last drive of the first half, I believe. It was either the last drive of the first half or the first drive of the second half. The Kansas defensive scheme, I thought, was working pretty well, right? You saw a ton of pressure on some guys. They were bringing pressure from different ways, like you said, with Jalen Todd having a couple of sacks, Dak Brinkley getting his first 2 sacks. Yeah. What did you see that you liked out of the defense?
Yeah, I love the aggression because I think there have been times this year where Kansas has sat back to kind of try and protect the back end a little bit. and you still wind up getting gashed, right? Because it's tough. Even if you drop 7, 8 guys, if they're out there covering for 6 or 7 seconds, that's still a really tough ask. And I think when you look at what they did on Saturday, they were proactive. They brought the game to Arizona. And there were a couple times, yeah, they got beat, but I would much rather see them get beat in those circumstances where you're creating the chance for negative plays. There were multiple times, guys, where they had chances for turnovers and either didn't execute. Obviously, you had the hold on Jalen Todd that erases a pick six. But that's the thing. This defense isn't necessarily one that if the other team has a 10 or 12 play drive, you can count on the other team's offense bogging down. What they need to do to get a stop is to create either that play that puts somebody behind the chains or a play that's a turnover worthy play where you can just outright have a change in possession. And I think that's the way they should attack the rest of the season defensively as well.
Yeah, 100%. Wanted to talk to you about that last drive. I mean, we could talk about the 4th and 2 all day, right? The analytics obviously say go for it, but they took Jalen out. And, I personally thought like, oh, hey, put Isaiah or Cole in and let them be the hero instead, right? But want to talk about the defensive side of the ball because the defense, Kansas still had a shot because the defense, all they needed to do was get a stop, and they certainly did it. And it feels like an episode. It feels like the movie Groundhog's Day, where you're just seeing the same thing over and over and over again of Kansas just not being able to get stops in the last 2 minutes of games. Just how did you see Arizona taking advantage of KU? Was KU deflated after the missed field goal, or was Arizona just pulling out different stuff?
Yeah, I thought Arizona executed well. I thought there were a couple situations where Kansas had a little bit of a light box and got ran on. The touchdown run from what I'm remembering off the top of my head, Trey Lathan, winds up almost dropping back a little bit. And so when you're running that, the offensive line, there wasn't anybody there basically in terms of where they wanted to run the ball. And so there was some of that. I also think, guys, Arizona's really good offensively. And the fact that the defense played as well as it did up to that point doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, you're going to generate stops for the entirety of the game. And I think back there was a Kansas game under Mark Mangino where they were up something like 30-3 on Texas Tech, Mike Leach, Texas Tech, right before half. Wind up losing like 31-30, right? It was a really strong defensive performance up to that point, but that didn't mean that they were going to be able to hold on the entire time. And so I do think the defense played really well overall, but ultimately I think that when Arizona had the ball with that much time left in that situation, and that's why I hate to keep harping on that 4th and 2, but that was why that decision made so much sense that even if it is Cole Ballard, even if it is Zeke Marshall, you go out and try and get the extra 2 yards because you can basically, I don't want to say run out the clock. They still had a timeout. You still had the 2-minute warning. But at the same time, it puts you in a situation where the clock becomes a factor. Whereas when Arizona got the ball with where they got the ball, the run was still on, right? They didn't have to just throw the ball. You still had plenty of time, and Arizona really took advantage of that.
Yeah, what's going to be what needs to change, I guess, for KU to have more success? Because we saw this last year. I mean, the heartbreaking losses to West Virginia and Arizona State on the road. I mean, goes on and on. And unfortunately, last year's team fell shy of a bowl game by 1 win. And KU needs to make sure that they get a 6th win. We'll talk about Iowa State more in detail next week, but what has to change, particularly for KU, other than, I guess, just executing better? Because like you said, I mean, they had the game one, multiple opportunities, pick sixes, etc., but a heartbreak at the end again.
Yeah, I wish I could say it was one thing, guys. Like, I know that people hate to hear execution, right? Because it's such a catch-all. And when coaches say it, it's like, oh, that's a cop-out. Well, it's not really a cop-out, right? You practice something. I mean, Dan, you played college football. You practice something, played in quotation marks. You practice something in the off season. You practice it during the week. You're probably executing it at practice to a point where you're confident enough to pull it out in the game. And then something so simple as a guy getting his timing off, a guy not quite getting his drop right, a lineman not quite getting the right angle. Those are all things that you've worked on, you've coached, you've done all these things, but you still have to execute it. And the reason I say that it's not one thing is you talk about the different games in there. UNLV, you had a fumble touched by about 35,000 KU
Yeah.
players that doesn't get picked up. Against West Virginia, you lead by 11 with like 6 minutes left. You go into prevent and still give up a really quick touchdown drive. Against Arizona State, you take the lead late and then you give up a giant run. It actually was probably a lot like the Arizona game in that you had the lead late and then they came back down and scored. You have different reasons for losing a lot of these different games. Some of them are maybe coaching decisions, some of them are execution, but there's not one thing. And I wish there was. Leipold says all the time, if it was one thing, we'd just fix it, right? Like if it was one guy blowing a coverage, we'd pull that guy out and put somebody else in. But unfortunately, it's been a lot of different things. And so I'm not sure what specifically you do other than continuing to emphasize you have to finish, you have to finish, you have to finish. And then, quite frankly, I think Kansas is a program with the talent and the things that they have. I think you have to be more aggressive in some of your end of game things. I think you have to go out now and say, we're going to win this game versus we're not going to lose this game. And I get the we're not going to lose this game when you're extremely under-talented, when you're at a spot like Leipold was at when he was building up Buffalo, when he was building up KU. But I think that when they're at a point right now with where they're at a spot where they weren't under-talented compared to Arizona. And I think it also sends a message to your kids from a positive standpoint when you go out and say, it's 4th and 2. I trust you guys to go make this play and win the game. And I think that that's something that I do think Kansas looks internally quite a bit at things that have gone right and gone wrong. I think that the offseason they do a definite deep dive, and I wonder if that's going to be something that kind of crops up this offseason where they say, hey, if we're in situations like 4th and 8 against Missouri, if we're in situations like 4th and 2 against Arizona, those things didn't go our way. How do we need to fix this process and make things different?
Kansas heading into the bye week 5-5, looking for that 6th bowl win or sixth win to get bowl eligible. It's going to be a tough road, but they got the bye week to kind of sit on it. Kevin, wanted to transition over to basketball. KU took on UNC in the Dean Dome, a battle of two blue bloods. A tale of two halves, really, right? I mean, the first half, Kansas looked tremendous, and then the second half got absolutely killed. The thing that stuck out to me most is how badly Kansas got beaten in points in the paint. What were some things that you pulled out of that game, first half, second half, and the whole game in general? Just what did you think of the game that happened on Friday out in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, I mean, we've said so many times on this show, guys, that I think Kansas's identity has to be defense, right? It has to start there. And the reason why is this isn't a team built to put up 105 points on the road and go beat somebody that way. And I thought the defense really let Kansas down. And I'm including the rebounding in that too. I think that, when you look at defensive rebounding, that's how you finish up a possession. And quite frankly, guys, that's how Kansas can help its offense is by getting stops, getting rebounds, getting out into transition and turning your defense into offense. They got killed in ball screens. They got killed on the offensive glass. And when they tried to have guys attached to the screener a little bit more, Carolina started getting some open jump shots off of that because guys were put into conflict of, okay, do you give up the dunk or do you give up the open three-pointer? And so the rotations weren't crisp and they weren't what they needed to be. And I think it reminded me a lot of the Gonzaga game where they got knocked out of the NCAA tournament a few years ago, where they just got ball screened to death and open jumpered to death. And I think when you look at this one, at least it's happening this early in the season. And at least it's with a young team that you feel like can grasp those things and get better at them over the course of the season, because the first half looked pretty good for the most part. Carolina did miss some shots. Bryson Diller made some shots. But but at the same time, I felt like the defense really let them down in the second half.
Yeah, so many open dunks, open threes, like you said, back doors. It just was
Yeah.
not good. UNC gets 58 in the second half, so we know KU's gonna have to shore that up. On the flip side, UNC going to be feeling really good after finally beating Kansas, and they're probably looking at that second half performance thinking, "Oh, we're a top 10 team." They played really well. That's not going to be how they play the rest of the season, but it was their night on Friday night in Chapel Hill. Offensively, Darren Peterson, I think kind of under the radar, is still awesome. He was really, really good. 8 of 14, 22 points. KU didn't get enough production in the paint. We know that's something we're going to talk about. I mean, hopefully not all year is a thing that KU needs to improve, but you don't have Hunter Dickinson, who's going to be a back to the basket guy. You need more from Flaherty there. And certainly you need other options offensively. A couple threes went down for Rosario. Who's he going to need to be for KU offensively to peak?
Yeah, I think you need to get outside shots from Cole Rosario and Jaden Dawson. And I know that, Rosario had 2 of them. 1 of them came at the end of the game when the game was pretty much decided. You need to get more production there where you can space the court a little more. Maybe you need to find more Bryson Tiller minutes. I get that he fouled out. Four threes and 5 fouls in 15 minutes.
15 minutes, yeah.
That's an eventful night. But they need to find a way to get some outside shooting, and I think the interior stuff will come a lot more when you have that, because I did think Flory did some nice things at times when the lane wasn't totally packed. I thought Melvin Council had some nice drives when the lane wasn't totally packed, but you got to pull guys out of the paint. And Darren Peterson, I thought was really good. He had to work really hard for those 22 points, both because of the way Carolina played him and the way Seth Trimble played him. It stinks that Trimble got hurt, yesterday or whatever it was. But when you saw the shots that Peterson had to hit to get his 22, and the fact that he still had an efficient 22, yeah, Peterson is awesome. But this is a team that needs to find a secondary scoring option when he's on the court. And guys, they really need to find a primary scoring option when he's off the court. And I think that's going to be the important thing to figure out these next couple games. Yeah, get the defensive rotations right, get better on how you defend pick and roll. But I think the other thing is find somebody who can score with Darren Peterson and find somebody who can score without him.
Yeah. Kevin Flaherty, KCSN, joins the show. And Kevin, I mean, we like, at least I like to talk about starting fives quite a bit. And with Bryson being maybe the biggest surprise of the entire year. Now, granted, Bill Self loves to say, "Guys, it's November. Like, let's calm down, right?" But also, we know. I mean, we can see it out there. Bryson is fantastic, and Trey White, at least against UNC, had a couple of really bad turnovers. Didn't have exactly the best game out of Trey White. Do you think that there's going to be a breaking point, and where do you think that breaking point is going to be, where Bill Self's kind of forced to put Bryson into the starting five?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think you can toss Cole Rosario into that discussion too, because technically you could go with Trey White at the 3 and go with Bryson Tiller at the 4 and kind of shoehorn it in that way. I think because of the Cole Rosario thing, I think you wait, maybe another month or so, just because it takes freshmen a while to find their sea legs. We saw it with Joel Embiid. Johnny Furphy was a guy that took a little while. And even guys like Ochai, he was redshirting his freshman year, and then they had to pull him in because of injuries and attrition and all the other things that were happening with that team. But I really think that if you're sitting here and it's a month from now, so December 10th, and Cole Rosario has not made that jump, I think that's when you start to look at, hey, are we better with Trey White at the 3 and better with Bryson Tiller at the 4? Because I do think that that's a 3-pronged discussion, because it's not just a simple, hey, are you going to put Tiller in for Trey White? I think that you add that extra element to it. But no, I think that's still about a month away. You still try and figure that stuff out. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, you have Bryson Tiller go for 20 against Duke and you're just like, this guy's too good, do it now. But at the same time, I do think that because of the Cole Rosario stuff and the fact that I do think that this team's best version could be with him at the 3, I do think maybe you stretch it out a little bit more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Of course, Tiller, like a lot of young big men, dealing with foul trouble a little bit. Need him to fix that, and certainly KU's got to get more from Florida Bidunga. Also, 8 and 7 in 35 minutes. Hopefully, he can improve. What are you looking for in these next two games? Kind of one of those weird weeks where you feel like you should go 2-0, but an opportunity for Kansas to improve before they head to Madison Square, Corpus Christi tomorrow, and then Princeton Saturday.
Yeah, you'd like to see Bryson Tiller continue to be on the torrid rate that he's at. But you would really just like to see some of the guys start to show what they were recruited / gotten out of the transfer portal for, right? I think with Melvin Council, I'd like to see him emerge as sort of that second guy where, hey, if Darren Peterson's not in the game, then I'm going to get downhill and I'm going to create things for other people. The ball is going to be in my hands in those situations. And I'd like to see him take some of the load off of Darren Peterson when he's in the game. And so I think that's part of it. The defense is a huge part. You're not facing Caleb Wilson now. You're not facing some of those guys.
That kid's a freak.
So he's
Oh my
unbelievable, and he's so agile that you can play him at the 3 with 2 other 6'10" plus guys, and I think that really makes Carolina a matchup nightmare for a lot of reasons. And then you add in the experienced guards like Seth Trimble and all of that, but you're not facing that now, right? You're in a spot where you can learn with a little bit more runway. And so the things that I want to see are consistency in defense. Are they getting the rotations down? Are they communicating right? Are they bumping guys after they set the screen and they're rolling? And are they doing the things that you need to do to have a really good defense? Because to me, that really is the formula to this year's team. It's never going to be, we're talking about finding the second scorer and all that. Melvin Council becoming that guy, Cole Rosario becoming that guy, Bryson Tiller becoming that guy. I don't think you're going to be a top 5 offense in the country. And so you need to have a top 10, top 15 defense. And the way that they get there is going to be by improving through games like this against Corpus Christi and Princeton.
Yeah, well said. Well, Kevin, we appreciate you joining us after rough weekends and good weekends alike. Hopefully next week we're talking about 2 wins for KU basketball, and yeah, we got to get that 6th win for football as well. But always appreciate your time, man, and love your work with Kansas City Sports Network. So we'll chat soon.
Thanks a lot, guys.
That's Kevin Flaherty joining us on Zoom. More coming up on Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com, and ESPN Kansas City. Well, it wasn't all bad over the weekend for KU as the number 13 ranked KU volleyball team swept Cincinnati. If KU volleyball beating Cincinnati sounded familiar, it's because they just did that about 2 weeks ago. But they got it done again. 12 kills from Ryan Swanson and 9 apiece from Grace Nelson and Reese Patak. 9 of their last 10 have gone the way of KU.
Man. Hey, also KU women's basketball.
Yes.
They're undefeated right now.
Yes.
Right?
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Jalea Davis, she had 28 points. They're going to be taking on Mizzou this weekend out at the T-Mobile Center. It's the same day that Kansas is taking on Princeton, but be sure to get out to the T-Mobile Center to cheer on your Lady Jayhawks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jalea Davis is so fun to watch. My goodness, she is absolutely exceptional. They beat Northwestern State 75-60. Like I said, Jalea, she had 28 points. Maya Nichols also had a fantastic game as well. This freshman class is shaping up to be really, really good. I mean, Libby Fandel has been phenomenal. She's great. Keely Parks is playing her role. We're seeing a little bit of Tatiana Brown sprinkled in there as well, and it's all obviously headed by Samaya Nichols. Elle Evans hasn't been off to the start that she probably wanted to, but we're going to see her continue to get better and get more comfortable at that 3-point line. But also, when you have somebody like Jalea Davis down low, I mean, it feels really good to have her down there. Lily Meister, she's been getting the start at the 5 spot. And then Jalea Davis, by the way, I talked about this last week, but against Kansas City, Jalea Davis got in foul trouble really early. Reagan Williams had to come in, and she had 18 points coming off the bench. So Reagan Williams was asked about that after the game, saying like, yeah, I don't care if I'm starting or I don't care if I'm coming off the bench. Whenever I'm in the game, I'm going to try to make an impact. And she certainly did. So you feel good about the depth also on this Kansas squad. Last year, not a lot of depth down low. Reagan Williams was thrown to the Wolves, and she handled it very, very well. The Lily Meister is long and lengthy. She's probably the tallest one, or at least lengthiest one on the squad as of right now, and she's looking really good. But Reagan coming off the bench, I mean, you feel really, really solid about that, about somebody who already has that experience coming in and being able to make an impact without the quality of the game going down whenever she comes in.
Yeah, we know that this KU roster doesn't have that 6'6" Tiana Jackson or somebody similar like that to protect the rim, but they've got some really good rebounders, and particularly Meister and Jalea Davis. Jalea Davis, she's one of those players that's just a little bit different, right?
She
You can
is.
tell off the top. So shout out to her and KU women's basketball with their hot start. One last note about KU volleyball before we go to our Case of the Mondays segment. They're now 19-8, 10-3 in conference play. They don't play this week. Next match is Saturday in the Little Apple against the K-State
Rematch.
Wildcats. Rematch. KU has got to get that one. After that happens, KU has the Utah swing. So 3 straight road games as they head to Utah and then BYU before it's actually 4 straight games. They got to go to Ames after that before hosting UCF on Senior Day, Saturday, November 29th. So good luck to KU volleyball on Saturday. Got to get this one in the Dillon's Sunflower Showdown. All right, Dan, Case of the Mondays. What do we got?
Case of the Mondays for your boys, the Cleveland Indians, and also in particular Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah.
Both those guys got a little bit of hot water. This is from Talking Baseball. Prosecutors allege that Luis Ortiz was paid $5,000 for throwing an intentional ball on June 15th, and Emmanuel Clase was also given $5,000 for facilitating it. They did it again June 27th, which the respective payment increased to $7,000 on that occasion. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, those guys are multimillionaires. Why are they doing this for $5,000? It was for one pitch. You actually brought this up. I thought they just got $5,000 for throwing a game. No, it's just for throwing one pitch that was a ball.
At least that's my understanding, I think.
By the way, it was swung at. So does that count as a ball?
Clase recently signed a 5-year, $20 million contract extension, by the way. And this is for $5,000, for pennies on the dollar, essentially, to them.
Yeah. By the way,
so you said it was swung at.
It was swung at, but it was a ball. So basically the bet was
a strike.
The bet was the first pitch of the second inning is going to be a ball. And they gave them $5,000, which increased to $7,000 just to throw a ball on the first pitch of the second inning for the June 15th game and the June 27th game.
And somebody swung at it?
Somebody swung at it. So,
that's not a ball, yeah.
No, it's not a ball. So, little money, right? Clase and Ortiz could face up to 65 years.
That's
in prison
unbelievable.
if convicted on the charges.
Is that ridiculous? Given what some charges for some terrible things that people do?
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can equate it to, murderers and insider trading and different things like this. Sure. I think someone needs to be made an example. And 65 years does seem a little excessive, but I think that this is becoming a bad issue, right? This was virtually unheard of until sports gambling became so much deeply ingrained into the world of sports. We're seeing it with Jonte Porter. I mean, look at Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, right? LeBron's old coach, whose name I'm blanking on right now, right? There's a number. I mean, Ipe, right? Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was gambling on games. Now he wasn't throwing games, but I mean, they need to do something about it. They need to nip this in the bud and say there are serious consequences for you doing this because it's destroying the integrity of sports as a whole, not just baseball, not just football, not just basketball, professional sports, even college sports. It is taking away from the most beautiful thing in this world, and somebody needs to be made an example to say, hey, we need to stop this. This is not good.
Yeah, man, I was surprised when I saw the 65 years, but hey, I'm on board with it. Justice has got to be served, right? I guess, and we'll see moving forward. Obviously, that's been in the news a lot recently.
Would you go to prison for 65 years for $5,000?
No, especially not if I'm making $5 million.
So that's the thing. I don't think I would either. Usually, my base number for doing anything is right around like $75,000. Like if anybody ever goes, hey Dan, for $75,000, would you? And I go, I'll stop you right there. Yes. I would.
It's got to be up to about 85,000 next year.
65 years in prison, I still don't think I'm doing. I'm not absolutely not doing it, because then I would be 92 years old when I get out of prison.
I need to read up on this, admittedly, the Clase and Ortiz thing. Obviously, they got suspended from Major League Baseball last year, and I've read a couple different things, but very interesting how Clase, by the way, who was the best closer in the league a couple seasons ago, they're going to be done with baseball for the foreseeable future, and maybe done with their freedom as well.
Look, get them out of the league. Like, they should never play again. I think that is, they should never ever be allowed into a ballpark again. They shouldn't be allowed in a Dick's Sporting Goods again. Sorry, Dick's House of Sport, to buy a baseball. I don't care. Like, they should not be around the game of baseball ever again if you're doing this.
What else we got here on Case of the Mondays?
Here's a fun one. Case of Mondays for silly teenagers. Apparently there is a sculpture in Australia nicknamed the Blue Blob. The Blue Blob, it was located on Mount Gambier. It was officially called Caston Blue, but they nicknamed it Blue Blob. Some teenager, we have a picture of this. Some teenager after hours went and put little googly eyes on the Blue Blob. That's fun.
That's cute.
Silly, right? Look, I'm not a fan of graffiti or vandalism, but this is fun, right? That's just a teenager being silly. Well, this Australian teenager is facing a $88,000 fine.
What? That's ridiculous. Damage
eyes.
to the artwork is estimated to be less than $1,600.
I know. It's unbelievable. I think the googly eyes makes it look better.
I actually agree.
She improved it.
I actually agree, and I think it's a great. Like, I could see driving past that every day, thinking that thing.
It needs eyes. It needs eyes.
eyes.
It's creepy without the eyes. You put the eyes on, now it's fun. Now it's funny.
Right.
I love it. This is horrible. I hate that they're doing this, man.
That is.
You know who deserves
There is no way the charges are going to be that much, right? There's no way.
No, apparently, but it says they've been charged after allegedly gluing googly eyes to an $88,000 $88,000 sculpture.
That's what I was going to say. The sculpture is $88,000.
Right.
So,
okay, I got you. But still,
but damage is less than $1,600. But that does suck if you have to pay that.
Come on,
even though it's
fun.
$1,600.
By the way, the authorities. Okay, so the authorities did take off the googly eyes and it chipped off some of the paint.
That's on them.
That's on them. Absolutely, it's on them. Like, there's better ways to take them. I think they were doing that to make an example. Be like, oh, look what you did. No, you did that. You took them off poorly.
True.
And there's another picture, but man, shout out like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like they there's plenty of other graphic things that they could have done to the Blue Blob statue.
All they did was make it fun.
There's so many profanities and inappropriate drawings. All they did was make it fun, and they're charging her. I hate that. I hate that so much. Hey, Case of the Mondays for Oregon State. Oregon State lost to the worst, maybe
Bearcats.
Maybe the worst team in college football as of right now. Sam Houston State.
The Bearcats with a K.
Bearcats with a K. This was at Oregon State, by the way. They lost the game 21-17. Let me go ahead and read you this box score because it's unbelievable. Oregon State, in a game that they lost to Sam Houston State, they outgained Sam Houston State 474 yards to 157. In terms of first downs, Oregon State had 28 first downs. Sam Houston State, 8. Third down efficiency, Sam Houston State, 3 for 13. Oregon State, 6 for 15. Passing yards, 85 yards through the air for Sam Houston State, 286 yards through the air for Oregon State. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Came down to turnovers, I guess.
Yep.
Oregon State, what made it worse? They led 17-0.
Yeah.
Sam Houston State scored the last 21 points in this one, and I was up watching this one late Saturday night over on the West Coast.
How do you
find it over on CW?
474 total yards to 157, and you still lose 21-17. That is
don't turn the football over, man.
The worst team in college football.
First win.
Shout out. Shout
out to the Bearcats with a K.
Yes. Case of Mondays for Dylan Raiola. This is fun. Patrick Mahomes apparently came out and said Dante Moore is his favorite quarterback to watch in college.
Dante Moore's electric.
He is, but how
That's a gut punch.
over under 3.5 hours Dylan Raiola spent crying that night that he's read this.
Doesn't Dylan Raiola think that he's related to Mahomes also or something?
Does he? I thought he was just
I don't know.
impersonating him like a
there's that.
a guy
I
dressed
thought I
as
heard
Elvis on the Vegas Strip.
I don't remember. I don't know. But yes, he definitely has been impersonating him for a long time.
Shout out Dante Moore,
But
man.
yeah,
He is electric. by the way.
Everybody's saying Dylan Raiola.
wound up losing to Iowa. Big game. That was a huge game.
Oregon?
Yeah.
They won.
Oh, they won
Against Iowa.
that.
Late field goal, 18-16.
Oh my gosh.
Oregon
I cannot
football.
believe I messed that up that bad.
That's all right.
It was going on the same time as the KU game, and I was watching the scroller on the bottom. That's how I was like, oh, I was up. That's
Oregon
fun.
football, game-winning field goal.
Shout out to Oregon. But yeah, man, Dylan Raiola, he's probably pissed about that, right?
He's got to be in tears, like you said.
He's got to be.
That's his boy.
I know. Did Patrick Mahomes and Dylan Raiola, they met each other, right?
Yes.
I believe so. Yeah. Whenever they played at Arrowhead, I believe. Case of the Mondays for Ball Jonzo. He is a Twitter account who's a big fan of Xavier. He runs a Twitter account is Xavier Sentinel, which I think is funny. So Richard Pitino, and we have some pictures for this as well. Richard Pitino is, as you know, Rick Pitino's son, also the head coach of Xavier.
Yes.
He posted this tweet, said post-game grades, Anthem Girl, A+, student section, A+, Gray Unis, A, big fan, offense, B-, 20 assists, defense, F-, rebounding, C, Phillip, 12 rebounds. Ball Jonzo went under that. He said, team going to Dana's after the game, F-. He's snitching on the team for going out after a win.
What's Dana's?
I would assume it's a bar.
Dana's, Cincinnati.
Yeah, Dana's in Cincinnati.
I gotta find it.
Probably
it could be not a bar. It could be one of a many number of things.
That's true. Well,
I'm curious.
Richard Pitino actually commented.
It does look like Dana Gardens.
Okay, so Richard Pitino actually commented under this guy with a GIF of Michael Scott saying,
Michael Scott.
Narc.
Yes.
I love this energy out of Richard Pitino. Let your guys have fun. Let them have fun. Let them go out and enjoy themselves.
Come on, Ball Jonzo. Why are you the Dwight Schrute of the world in this scenario?
What are you snitching on them for? Hey,
they can go out. They won the game.
They're college kids. Let them enjoy it. Enjoy the night. Enjoy the win.
Couple more here.
I love that Richard Pitino did this. Narc. Case of the Mondays for IMG Academy. IMG Academy, they're supposed to play St. Francis in football. IMG Academy is the #1 team in the nation. Okay. As you know, a lot of big-time names have come out of there. JJ McCarthy, they're one of those schools who basically can recruit guys in Florida. So essentially, they were supposed to play St. Francis, the #2 team in the country. And since it was going to be the #1, #2 team in the country, IMG Academy said, hey, we're going to move this game to December because this is going to be the national championship game because it's the #1, #2 team in the country. They were supposed to play it in November, moved it to December. And because it was moved to December, IMG Academy says, we are not going to play the game because of the amount of time between games. They're the ones who
6 weeks.
They're the ones who decided to move it to December.
That's the strange part. Like I could understand, if they want to fall on the sword of too much time in between games, okay, but you're the ones who made it.
You're the one exactly. IMG Academy goes, wait, no, let's play this game in December. Let's please move it. And everybody goes, fine, let's move it to December. And then IMG Academy goes, no, that's just way too long. Let's
make it.
You know what? Let's cancel. Let's cancel the game. We don't need to play it, right?
Yeah. And a side note, of course.
Yes.
Last year when the teams faced up, St. Francis won 30-3. So IMG took a beating last year, and they're not. I guess they're not going to do that this year.
Not a good look.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a good look.
Like Andy Bernard, they don't lose games.
Right.
They win them or they quit them because they're unfair.
Bingo. Last one here. Case of Mondays for Amarillo Caprock High School and Lubbock High School. This is electric. They lost a 3-way coin flip at a gas station at midnight to Amarillo High to see who would go to the Texas high school playoffs in a tiebreaker.
Brutal.
Isn't that insane? A 3-way coin flip.
Which gas station was this held at?
It was held at the Toot and Totem gas station in Plainview, Texas. I'm glad you asked. So the Toot and Totem gas station in Plainview, Texas, held a 3-way coin flip at midnight to see which of these 3 teams were going to go. There's 2 reasons that this is Case of Mondays for Amarillo Caprock High School and Lubbock High School, because the other high school it was Amarillo High. Caprock and Lubbock, both of them won enough games to be able to go to the playoffs. Amarillo High, they had to vacate 6 of their wins due to an ineligible player.
Mm-hmm.
And Amarillo High still won the coin flip.
How about
and
that?
They're still going
The
to
coin
playoffs.
rules all. Just
That
like your
is-
MIAA coin.
That it does. It's heartbreaking. That's a miscarriage of justice right there. Like, they should have been like, all right, well, if you guys had to vacate 6 wins, then you shouldn't be going to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
But instead, they're like, no, we'll leave it to a coin flip and
Leave
Amarillo
it to
Caprock and
leave it
Lubbock
to the
High.
Toot and Totem. That's what we're gonna do.
Isn't that great?
The
That
coin
happened
flip.
in Friday Night Lights, though, right? A coin flip.
Did it?
I believe it
I have to
happened.
go back and remember.
I
or
believe it
watch.
happened in the movie.
Okay,
not
that I have
the
not seen.
television
I've seen
show.
the series.
Movie's great.
Oh, series
Movie.
great. Lila Garrity, big fan.
Yeah,
Big
Buddy Garrity, big fan.
Ah,
He's a fun guy.
oh, hey,
Shout out.
everybody
Shout
has
out.
a type, right?
Yeah, right. He seems like a good hang.
Hey, after this, we were talking KU soccer. We're going to hear from Nate Lee. The Hawks fell to BYU in the Big 12 championship of the tournament down in Waco, but they will have their season roll on into the NCAA tournament. We'll have coverage of that this week as well. And Nate Lee, some KU soccer chatter after this on Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. KU soccer wasn't quite able to make it back-to-back Big 12 tournament championships as they lost 1-0 to BYU on Saturday night in Waco. Still a successful run in the tournament in Texas.
Yeah.
I almost said in Waco, but it was in Fort Worth the
Yeah.
first couple rounds for KU soccer. Let's hear post-game thoughts from head coach Nate Lee.
Coach, what are your overall thoughts on the match?
Tough one. You know, us as coaches, we're just talking about how we're feeling, being on the wrong side of this, and just sad. Sad's the only word, because really proud of our players, and you know, we put forth a solid effort tonight. BYU's an excellent team. Congrats to them. We knew we didn't get their best shot when we played them a couple weeks out in Provo. They were missing one of their best players. They came very focused today with a lot of intent, really hard into the tackle, and they had the most of it in the first 15-20 minutes. Again, it looked like we might be able to weather the storm. They had a couple corners, nothing too dangerous, but we were letting too much of the play happen in territory we don't want to. It's interesting that the goal that settled the game was just a special moment from a special player. I think that was her 16th goal of the year. You know, we've scouted her all year, and she can score in any way. Always pops up, always finds big moments, and she's, you know, shot one from 35 yards out, and I was kind of glad she shot it because it looked like it might be a dangerous attack, and then goes off the crossbar and in. So hats off to a great play that ended up being the winner. I thought, take away that play, she got a really, really dangerous one in the second half. We got to let off the hook. But I think otherwise, I thought we did a really nice job settling into the game. Had pretty good control of it. As the game wore on, I think our chances got more and more dangerous. They had to review a handball. I think it was the right non-penalty. You know, and then we went bang, headers, a lot of stuff from close. You know, near post, like a lot of dangerous balls served into dangerous spaces. And I thought we did an excellent job of getting on the end of it. And you know, more often than not, they either got in the way or the keeper who, you know, she has quite the fairy tale, played a great game. And so I told our team, you know, it hurts, it's sad. We wanted to win this game. We think we could win this game. We expected to win this game, but we could hold our heads up high. We can be proud of how we played. We can be proud of how we represented KU soccer.
You guys outshot BYU 17-10, had an 8-4 advantage in corner kicks. You couldn't capitalize on any of them, but a lot of those corner kicks were very close, and a lot of those shots were very, very close, and you can't score a goal. How can you tell the team, now that you have still another game at least, how do you tell the team to just keep their head up and then keep pushing to score those close corners and those shots?
Yeah, I think the way we played kind of the last 60 minutes of the game, usually you'll find a way. You know, it's harder when you spot a team goal, but usually you'll find a way, because when you make winning plays, good things happen to you. And, you know, I think that largely held up. You know, I think a lot of our dangerous chances came from making winning plays that didn't look dangerous and became dangerous, but sometimes the bounces don't go your way. Sometimes, you know, the goalkeeper was very good today. You know, we'll regroup. we'll continue to stress how important it is that we come out as focused, as intent, as urgent and desperate. That we played that last half of the game has to come from the first minutes. This is a big occasion. BYU, they have a lot of experience there. I mean, they're young, but that program's been to many occasions like this. We're still relatively young. We're working on it, but hopefully we can take this as a learning experience into the NCAA tournament. I'm very grateful that we'll have that opportunity to continue playing. Hopefully we can do a little bit more next time, but just grateful to this group of young women for how they come to work every single day, how they buy into the process, how they create good habits, how they invest in each other and in the program. Grateful to be on a stage like this. Only one team gets to win, and so there's always a person on this side of things. We were fortunate enough last year. Sometimes it doesn't go your way, but it's a beautiful evening. Big 12 did a great job hosting it. We'll lick our wounds. Hopefully we'll celebrate the fact that we made it this far, and then we'll regroup and become really focused for the next phase.
How do you prep your players for the potential game next week, hosting an NCAA tournament game at Rock Chalk Park?
We have a long ride home tomorrow, so they just need to rest. It's been we've been gone for a long time. We'll find out our opponent on Monday. I think once we have that, we'll give them a day or two off, let them regenerate, and then we'll go into the game plan. It's business as usual. I think part of the reason we got here is because we treated this week business as usual. We'll just have to, as the stakes get higher, it requires a little bit more every single time. And we're getting there, we're learning. I still have a lot of belief in this group.
You had a lot of girls last year on the team last year making the NCAA tournament. They're all back, and you have a lot of freshmen again this year and a lot of new people. What do you want to see from your leaders going into that game?
I want them to remember last year, because honestly, I think we played better in this game than we did in that NCAA game for most of it. I want to learn the lesson, like this game, like last game, that we have to come out flying from the beginning. Hopefully it's a little bit easier. I do think we'll have earned a game at Rock Chalk Park. If anyone's actually listening to this, I would urge and encourage, and it would really help us out if we could get a big crowd. We felt the crowd here on both sides. BYU's crowd was loud and great, so was ours. It felt like a final, and I would love for our match to feel like an NCAA tournament game. There's no substitute for experience. You can try to teach as many things as you can, but hopefully we'll take what we learned last year and take a step forward this year.
Even with the loss, just final thoughts. How proud are you of this team to go through 3 games in 1 week and ultimately fall? But how proud are you of this team?
Yeah, I have a lot of pride in how our athletes carry themselves. In the community, in the classroom, around Wagner. And on the field. I thought they played tonight with honor. I think they played with heart. I think they played for each other. They never gave up. It's a great group, and that's partly why it hurt so much. It's partly why I also have a lot of confidence that we'll create some more opportunities for ourselves. But yeah, a huge debt of gratitude to this group of 28 for all they do for Kansas soccer.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
That's KU head coach Nate Lee after the Hawks fell in the Big 12 Tournament Championship to BYU 1-0. Dan, a tough result, but a good run so far, early postseason for KU soccer.
No, absolutely. And this game was tough, right? Ellie Walbrook, we knew she was going to be good coming in for BYU, and she was, she's the one who scored the only goal. Kansas offense could not get it started. Kansas beat them in every facet, right? They had 8 shots on goal compared to 5 shots on goal for BYU. Kansas, they had only 4 saves. BYU had 8 saves, all by Chelsea Peterson. She played a phenomenal game on the defensive end of the ball for them. Kansas had 17 shots. BYU only had 10 shots, and Kansas just not able to get the ball in the back of the net. A lot of shots on goal, including Lexi Watts, who had 3 shots on goal. None of them were able to get in. So very unfortunate for the Hawks. But Caroline Castans, she managed to be a part of the all Big 12 tournament team, as that was announced actually today. She had 1 assist, came against West Virginia, played 265 minutes out of a possible 270 minutes throughout the tournament, helped lead the defensive effort to only allow 2 goals in 3 games. Really impressive stuff out of like Caroline Castans. She was, I mean, we knew how good she was heading into the season, and it's going to continue through the NCAA tournament.
Packers 1.5-point favorites tonight against the Eagles. Give me Packers money line minus 110 for Monday Night Football game picks. All sorts of NFL and college football covers that we didn't get to today. The rest of the week on Rock Chalk Sports. Thanks for listening on ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com.